Yo, what's up? This is Jerm with ATX Music Mag. We're here with Graham Williams, the founder of Fun Fest and part owner of Transmission Entertainment, man. What's going on?
Not a lot.
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess I'm sure you've been asked this multiple times, but how exactly did Fun Fest start, and what inspired you to actually start this growing festival?
At the time I worked at Evo's, I booked the shows there, and it was just a random situation. We had a bunch of touring acts coming through that needed to play at Emo's, and Emo's was booked, and La Zona was booked, and Stubbs closed for the holidays. And so I ended up just getting together with my friends at the Alabama Draft House, to the league, and they ended up partnering with me and just doing this event just to have a concert in the park. It was sort of a small fun thing we just threw together, and it ended up just becoming successful, and people wanted to be a part of it, and it grew and grew. And Alamo at the same time was having their Fantastic Fest, their big sci-fi music festival, so they started concentrating on that, and then I around the same time started Transmission Entertainment, and so we sort of developed the festival and made it larger, and then what it is today.
Started at Waterloo Park, now it's at Auditorium Shores. What inspired that decision? Was it the growth of the festival, or?
A little of both. I mean, partly it was a festival's growth and we needed a bigger space, and partly it was just the city changing. They were developing Waterloo Park. It's currently under construction, so they were going to have to start constructing Waterloo Park sooner than later. So timing worked out. They now have that whole park fenced off, and they're redoing the whole thing. And we were able to move to Auditorium Shores just in time, so we didn't lose our location. And it worked out because the festival was kind of on its way up size-wise anyway. Needed that next step up. That's definitely the biggest it will ever be. It's never going to grow larger than that.
Fun Fest was 2010. We got to see the Vandals, the Dwarves, Bad Religion, War, freaking Descendants. Like, I figured there's no way you guys can top it off, and you guys did it again this year, man. You guys got Slayer, Public Enemy, Youth Brigade, freaking M83. Like, what's your formula to getting these artists that I guess aren't as mainstream as they are, but I guess they have that popularity, but just not as mainstream. Like, what's the formula behind Fun Fest?
I don't know. It's kind of a balancing act, really. I mean, like, I every year say, oh, it's not going to be as good as last year. There's no way. And somehow I don't know if we get lucky or if I'm just doing my job, but we seem like we always seem to have at least as good, if not better, a festival every year. And a lot of that's just really going after the right artists, finding those bands that we think are perfect. And, we want big bands, we want a lot of people to show up, we want people to be excited to see acts that they don't normally get to see, that don't play, every month at Beerland or every month at Mohawk or any other smaller venue in town. We want to try and get some big acts, but we also want to have lots of cool small up and coming acts that do come through often, so it's a balancing act there. And in getting the larger artists, we have to be careful not to get something that steps outside of our scene, which isn't that hard, because if it's not on my iPod or no one in my office listens to it, we're probably not going to book it. So we're not going to book the Red Hot Chili Peppers because they'll sell a lot of tickets, because as much as we like selling tickets, the flavor of the festival would be watered down and fans wouldn't be happy, and we just don't want to book certain bands. It's a real genre-specific sort of festival. I mean, there's a lot of different types of music, but it's all still under that same sort of scene umbrella.
Cool, yeah. So what, I guess you guys do indie, hip-hop, punk, metal, and just everything all around, like from comedy acts as well. You guys got Henry Rollins this year. That was a pretty big highlight then, huh?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I guess, do you guys have like niche people in charge of certain genres, or what, or is it just like a collective effort?
Not really. I mean, I mainly do all of it. There's a few people who help out with certain things, or help with ideas, or help out with connecting or reaching out to some folks. But mainly, it's just kind of stuff I'm into, and I have to be really careful that it sort of matches what we're doing. Like even with comedy, if it's someone I don't know, I have to look up and watch their stuff on YouTube and make sure it's not too plain Jerry Seinfeld comedy,
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
edgier and
yeah.
different, and that actually matches what we do. So yeah, it's just you know, finding that stuff that is cool and different and not too obvious is, you know, probably the hardest part of it. It's not even that hard. It's just it's the only thing that's hard is organizing it all onto the stages. There's a lot of great music out there.
What's one of your most favorite act that you booked that you were like a childhood fan of, or just your most accomplished act?
Right. Man, every year I have someone like that. You know?
Who is it this year?
This year, I mean, Slayer was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were lots of bands on the other stage, Negative Approach, just bands I loved growing up. Descendants last year was definitely like a coup. Like they were in our top 10, you know, dream bands to get. It's cool. It's different too. I mean, you know, when you book a band like Sea Devils or someone like that, and I've already booked them a bunch before they broke up and reunited. It's really great, but it's a band that you sort of know and you've seen. But getting a band that you thought you would never see is just as special for me as it is for all the people who go and see them who are excited.
Yeah.
Dead Mountain actually was probably, that would, I think, of all those bands I've ever booked, like that was like one of the gateway bands who got me into cool music when I was a kid. They were funny and weird and quirky and not too punk where it scared me off.
Yeah,
You have to listen to Poison or Motley. Like I could understand it, and before I got into Agnostic Front or whoever. So they were just interesting, and I met them when I was really young because they used to record in Austin. And,
Okay.
Anyway, long story short, getting them to play it was real special. You know, I mean, listen to that band when I was in 6th grade on. I never stopped enjoying that band as a group. And for me, anyway, personally, that was a really cool act to get. But there's dozens every year like that. You know.
Yeah, I got to catch them at the Mess with Texas party last year. That was pretty sweet,
they were
man.
awesome. This year, I mean, Hot Snakes was a big one. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands. So having them play was amazing. Sometimes we find weird little quirky things that stand out, like this group Death Grips was really cool. Turquoise Jeep was this real hilarious online kind of comedy music thing we found and got in touch with them, and they blew me away. They were incredible. There were a lot of just random things like that we find and really push to have. Like when we got in touch with that Sergio Sexy Sex Man, I've seen it on YouTube, it's hilarious. We were like, oh, will you come and we'll fly you out and pay you just to do whatever you want. You walk on stage, ruin someone's set, I don't care. And he had a blast. So stuff like that, we try and do fun, unique things that will be memorable, that we're going to think about and we're going to think is cool and fun and interesting, and hopefully other people do as well. And we have some stuff planned out for next year, or next festival, I guess it's this year now, that hopefully will have the same effect and people walk away.
Bring up next year's festival. Are there any, I guess, artists rumored to be coming, or usually?
There's stuff I'm working on. I mean, I never talk about it this far.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm
Almost
definitely
got it.
sorry. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff we want to make happen, and we're pushing really hard for it. So, we have offers into agents and bands, and we're starting to work on that right now. Pretty far out. I mean, I used to not book it until after South by Southwest, and now I start booking, almost immediately after the festival. Sometimes even before, just start reaching out to bands and trying to make stuff happen. So hopefully that's going to be the case this year as well, where we can get a lot of it booked over the spring, and get some of the big acts that we really, really want to get.
Your headlines this year were Public Enemy, Slayer, freaking Spoon, and I guess Danzig was one of them too, man. And I guess I heard there was a lot of drama, or we all heard there was a lot of drama involved. And does that normally happen with bands, or what?
Not on that
was
level.
situation?
I mean, every once in a while there's some little drama at the fest. Seems like there's always one band who's like, those dudes were dicks, or that tour manager was a nightmare, he made so-and-so do this. But it's minor. I mean, I've never dealt with anything like it. I mean, I don't ever talk about what goes on behind closed doors, even when bands are pieces of shit. But I had no problem openly, publicly talking about it because, he had, done so much damage to or attempted to do so much damage to the festival, and sadly, I think it backfired on him. I mean, I almost felt bad for him by the end of the festival. It was just, he was such a joke, and online everyone was making fun of him, and I was like, I mean, you reap what you sow, but at the same time, I was like, man, he's already the butt into so many jokes with the kitty litter, getting knocked out. And it was just like, there's just one more thing with the soup and all these new things. But it's just like, it's strange. I think he sort of surrounds himself. It's sort of like a punk rock emperor wears no clothes, and that he surrounds himself with all these yes people who are like, they laugh at his joke, they believe his conspiracy theories, everything he says goes, because he's this, he is Danzig, and I'll admit he's, extremely talented. I mean, Misfits are one of the most original, best bands ever, and but no one ever tells him, "Oh, that's a fucking terrible idea. Are you crazy?" No one wants to. No one wants to lose their job or piss him off, and so he kind of does whatever he wants. And in a club, he can go punch a sound guy and fire his guitarist to do whatever he wants, and people roll their eyes when they talk shit about it. And in a giant festival with Rolling Stone and Spin and all these people taking pictures, they're like, I'm going to write an article about this tomorrow. I mean, I just don't think he realized what he was doing. And naturally, they're going to ask me what happened. And then if he's trying to blame the festival for something he did, and it was all him, then...
And I guess normally, some fests would let him continue playing, because I know you guys kind of cut him off, is that that was, I guess, a pretty easy decision to make.
Yeah, I had no problem doing it at all. I mean, if we were allowed to go past 10, I would have let him keep going. If it was a fee, if they were like, you're going to get $1,000 fee, okay, we'll pay the $1,000 fee. I would pay $1,000 to see these Misfit songs I've been waiting on.
Everyone was waiting for.
But that wasn't the case. If we went past 10, the entire festival was canceled. For Saturday and Sunday, permits were pulled.
Okay.
So we scheduled to end at 9:45. So we had 15 minutes. If you ran late, if someone broke a string,
encore or something,
whatever, then they have 15 minutes to go over. He was supposed to. He was supposed to go on at 8:15. He didn't walk on stage till 9. He was almost an hour late. And it wasn't that he was late. He was sitting in the green room saying, I'm not going on. And keep in mind, it wasn't like something happened, he walked out, he didn't like the stage, he didn't like whatever. One, we advanced all this. We sent him the stage specs, the lighting, the sound, all stuff that they requested. They knew all the details. If they messed up somewhere and didn't read something, that weren't happy about something, fine. That's still their fault. That said, that wasn't the case, because when he landed, the driver who picked him up, or one of our drivers, called me immediately and was like, hey, I just picked up Danzig from the airport. He says he's canceling the fest. He says he doesn't feel good, he has a cold. He says it's freezing in Austin. I heard him talking to his manager on the phone. He says it's freezing, I can't go out there. It's like 70 degrees Sunday. But, and it was a little cool at night. It was like 50 or something. But it was like, long sleeve sweater. But because he was sick, he didn't want to deal with it. He was basically just never going to play. So he was immediately trying to book a flight back. Agent, manager, people are calling me, just do whatever, get in heaters for the stage.
Move
even
it
if you
inside
don't he tried to get us to move the festival inside, as if there's some place to move it inside and move it in 30 minutes. Then he tried to wanted to play the big stage. Well, if you're sick and you don't want to play, why would you play that stage? Then it was, it's all online, but it was nonstop, excuse after excuse after excuse, and so much funny stuff I don't even need to go into because it's just petty. But it was pretty insane. And then eventually, we didn't even get to the point where we got lawyers involved and were like, we're going to sue you. It wasn't even like that. It was like, please, please, please go on stage. You have thousands of people booing that are pissed that they've been standing there for an hour waiting for you to go on. Give them what they want. He gets on stage, he's fine, plays his set, and then we tell them, you guys, your 90-minute set, we only have 60 minutes and we have to pull the power. We don't have a choice. So you have to cut some songs. They cut out 3 songs of a 90-minute set. They cut out, 8.5 minutes of music. Knowing full well they weren't going to get to the songs that everyone wanted to see and hear. And then at the end of the set, if he was so sick and dying and was going to die, was afraid he might die, he kept saying, then why at the end of the set was he like, let's keep going, well, we want to keep playing. Obviously, he was full of shit the whole time. He just didn't want to play, didn't feel like it. You know, it's really weird. I've never dealt with something like that.
We were covering the Danzig show, and I went over to catch Public Enemy because we had our interview lined up with Chuck D afterwards. So I didn't even get to see our first review was like, oh, Danzig played great songs, and Doyle came out and freaking headed over to Public Enemy, and he killed the set. But we had no clue what was going on. Like, we were out there waiting. We ended up finding out like at 2 a.m. like after I had published the actual story. But like, we were out there waiting. We saw tarps being set up. We were just like, what is going on?
It was cool. Like the tarps. He basically showed up late. His band showed up. They didn't sound check. They loaded it in the middle of the day. They didn't send any gear up that morning, which is totally weird. And they're like, oh well, we thought the stage was higher. One of our backdrops won't work as well, but we'll just use the Danzig one. Oh well, no big deal. The band was cool. Mm-hmm. Like and the crew, they were like, yeah, whatever. Well, it's not a big deal. Lighting, sound, everything's fine. The stage is the right size. He shows up late. He had already all day been trying to cancel, and we had been arguing with his agent. And, like, we paid him a lot of money. Please don't do this. We'll do whatever he wants. We had a doctor on site. We brought space heaters out for the stage because the freezing cold 70 degrees was going to kill him. He shows up, he gets in green room immediately. I'm not playing, I'm here, but I'm not going on stage, just so you know.
What kind of suit was he asking for again?
He needed a fringe onion suit. It's funny, I was so sick, and then after the show, he immediately was going and eating fast food, so I don't know why he needed healthy stuff.